Hello world, this is Tommy Hagewood coming to you from Leesburg, Florida, the lakefront city in the Sunshine State. It's 86 degrees on the way to 96, and it'll feel like 103. This is Friday, June the 26th, 2020. I hope you're having a wonderful day. With merciless indifference, Cain killed his brother Abel, and when confronted about it, asked God, "Am I my brother's keeper?" in Genesis 4 and verse 9. We're reminded of the same unconcern when the priest and Levi passed by on the other side without stopping to help them in the parable of the Good Samaritan in Luke chapter 10, 25 through 37. When the Samaritan helped the wounded man with the religious leader, when the religious leaders passed by, verse 33 tells us the Samaritan had compassion for the wounded man. According to 1 John 3, 11 and 12, Cain slew his brother because of envy. This is the same sin that put Jesus on the cross, according to Matthew 27 and verse 18. Envy, indifference, jealousy, and a host of other dastardly motives can cause a person to view others in an imbalanced and improper way. Let me suggest 5 bad attitudes that can cause a person to view others in a sinful way. Number 1, I am not my brother's superior. No one has the right to look down on others with a feeling of superiority. In Luke 18, 9 through 14, Jesus contrasted the arrogant Pharisee who viewed the humble tax collector with contempt, thinking he was so much better because of all the sinful things he did not do. The Lord tells us the tax collector, who rightfully asked for mercy, was justified when the Pharisee was not. We can be like the tax collector or like the self-righteous Pharisee. Number 2, I am not my brother's inferior. An inferiority complex can be just as destructive and just as dangerous as a superiority complex. You corner a cowering dog, and he's liable to lash out at you. Corner a cowering person, he's liable to do the same thing. There's no reason a person should feel superior or inferior to any other individual. The Bible gives us a balanced view of how we need to see ourselves in Acts chapter 10, verses 25 and 26, when the Gentile Cornelius fell at the feet of the Apostle Peter. Peter told him to stand up, for he was just a man. The Catholic Church tells us we should stay on our knees and kiss his ring, and that's not what God says. I am not better than anyone else, nor am I inferior to anyone else. God is no respecter of persons, and neither should we be. Number 3, I'm not my brother's master. In Romans 14 and verse 4, and also verses 10 through 13, we're informed that we're not to judge the servant of another in matters of personal conscience, and that we'll all stand before the judgment seat of God. Number 4, I am not my brother's substitute. We learn this from Jesus' parable of the 10 virgins in Matthew 25, 1 through 13. 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. The foolish virgins did not take enough oil for the lamps and missed out on the joyous wedding feast when the bridegroom came. There are some things you cannot buy or get by proxy. We cannot expect another to develop a Christ-like character for us, to do our praying for us, or to do good works for us that we should be doing ourselves. Each of us must bear our own burden according to Galatians 6 and verse 5. Number 5, I am not my brother's companion in good times only. Paul had to stand alone because no one would stand with him when he defended himself in a Roman court. Note the following in 2 Timothy chapter 4, 16 and 17. At my first defense no one stood with me, but all forsook me. May it not be charged against them. But the Lord stood with me and strengthened me, so that the message might be preached fully through me, and that all the Gentiles might hear. Also I was delivered out of the mouth of the lion. How many brethren have promised to stand behind the preacher for the truth of the gospel, but when controversy came because of the gospel, the people found themselves so far behind the preacher he couldn't even see them? Brethren who apologize for the truth instead of standing up with others who are teaching and preaching it will answer to God for their cowardice. Jesus said in Mark 8 and verse 38, For whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him the Son of Man will be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with his holy angels. No, I'm not my brother's superior, my brother's inferior, my brother's master, my brother's substitute, or my brother's companion in good times only. But I am my brother's keeper. It takes faith, courage, and compassion to fulfill this responsibility. May the Lord help us to have these qualities and to shun the sinful attitudes that only divide people. Until next time, remember to search the Scriptures, to serve the Lord, and to share the gospel with others. It's a message that's too good to keep. This is Tommy Haygood wishing for you a very pleasant good day.